normally when I do shows like this, I'll interview with the newspapers or the radio stations or whatever. And they always ask me the same question. They go, well, Bill, is your family funny? I always say, no. No, my family's crazy, and that makes me funny. And the Engvall clan has had crazy covered for a number of decades. My grandparents, when they were alive, God bless their hearts, my grandmother was just crazy as a loon. Most wonderful woman you ever meet in your life, but she just loved to talk. She talked to y'all, that mic stand, the stool, these walls. And they all live in one little town in Texas, a little town called Georgetown, Texas. And my parents lived there, my sisters lived there, and my grandparents lived there when they were alive. And Gail, my wife, and I, we both went to college in that little town. So when I was in college, I'd go over to Grandma and Grandpa's house because it was a free, good meal. And that was the one thing I learned in college. And I'd go over there and it'd be the same scenario every day. There'd be my granddad sitting in his favorite chair with the newspaper up. My grandmother would just be walking through the house talking. And I'd egg it on. I'd say, well, how you doing today, Grandma? She goes, well, Billy, I'm doing all right, I guess. They're not shoveling dirt on top of me. I guess that's a good day. I said, what'd you do today? She goes, well, Bill, I went to the beauty shop today. I said, oh, really? She goes, oh, yes. And I saw Betsy there. And Betsy was getting herself a bouffant hairdo. Now, Bill, I don't know why she'd get a bouffant hairdo because she's got a fat face. Well, yeah, you'd think a woman with a fat face would want that hair hanging all down in front of her face. But no, she pulls it all on top of her head. So now she's got a big fat bun of hair with those big fat cheeks. I think she's lost her mind. Oh, and did I tell you this? They bought a new car. She wanted a Chevy, but they talked her to a Ford. She wanted a black Chevy, but the dealer man said, oh, man, black shows up dirt too much. You need a brown car. So now instead of a pretty black Chevy, she's got an ugly brown Ford with that fat-faced bouffant hairdo. I think she's lost her mind. And my granddad would just go, mm-hmm. I'll tell you a story about them. When they were getting ready to celebrate their 50th wedding anniversary, my grandmother said to my granddad, she said, Ray, I want you to go to Macy's and get yourself a suit because it's a big anniversary and I want you dressed up. And my granddad's like, I ain't wearing no damn suit. I never wore one, ain't gonna wear one now. Because you gotta know who my granddad was. It was boots, overalls, and no shirt. All right, yeah. And that was church. Yeah. But, Grandma ruled the house, so she got him to go get a suit, and they had their anniversary. Well, everything was great. Well, unfortunately, about 9 months later, Granddaddy passed away. And we were sitting at the funeral home, me and my grandmother, and the funeral director said to my grandmother, she said, ma'am, what would you like Ray buried in? And my grandmother looked at me and said, well, we bought him that suit. I guess we'll just bury him in that. And I remember thinking, this poor man can't catch a break dead. So we buried Granddaddy, and after the funeral, I was having coffee with my grandmother, and I said, now, Grandma, I said, listen to me. I said, people are going to start calling the house now, and they're going to ask for Granddaddy, but they don't really want him. I said, they just want to make sure he's gone. They're going to try to sell you some kind of scam to get in your stocks or your savings. I said, so do me a favor. When they call, you just tell them that Granddaddy's in the garden, or he's gone into town, or he'll be back later, and they can call back and talk to him then. And I said, trust me, they won't call back. Well, I went on home. Well, about a year later, I was back in town visiting my parents. I stopped by to see Grandma. And we were sitting there having coffee, and she said, well, honey, you were right. I said, about what? She said, those folks called all the time. I said, I told you they would. She said, this one fella, he called once a week for 6 weeks. I said, well, what did he want? And she goes, well, that's what I wanted to know. She said, so the next time he called, I said, young man, you have called this house once a week for 6 weeks. Can I ask what this is about? And he said, oh, yes, ma'am. He said, I'm sorry. He said, I'm from Macy's, and I was just calling to see how Ray's enjoying his suit. And I started laughing, and I said, what did you say, Grandma? And she goes, well, I didn't want to lie to him because the Lord don't like liars. So I just said, well, young man, we can't get it off him. And she wasn't lying. And we kept going on. Well, now we're a week away from the finals. And we had to learn 2 dances in 1 week. We had to learn the cha-cha and we had to learn the Argentine tango. So Emma and I are in the dance rehearsal hall, and we're rehearsing the cha-cha. And all of a sudden, Emma goes, Bill, can you do a cartwheel? I said, Emma, I'm 58. Yes, I can do a cartwheel. And I did one. And she goes, oh my God, this is brilliant. Bill, they'll love this. We'll do the move. We'll cha-cha in front of them. You do the cartwheel, they'll eat it up. And I'm doing it. I'm doing a cartwheel, and I'm really good at it. Then all of a sudden, my brain and my mouth got together and went, hey, Emma, what if, instead of a cartwheel, what if I did a round off with a half twist? And she goes, can you do one? And I said, yes. And my brain went, no. But I did it. And then she goes, oh my God, I don't even know where I learned this stupid move. But I did it. She goes, they're going to love this. So we're rehearsing, and I'm doing the round off with a half twist. I'm like, what's going on? Well, she goes, let's do it one more time, then we'll go on to the Argentine tango. So we get to that move. I do the round off with a half twist. But this time when I landed, instead of landing with my knees bent, I landed with my knees locked. Yeah. And the bad knee went, bye-bye. It went sideways, and I hit the ground. And so we iced it down. It kind of settled down. She goes, let's just go on to the Argentine tango. It's slow, and it won't hurt your knee. And I said, great. I don't know if you know what the Argentine tango is, but it is literally just sex to music. Oh, it's just this rub and grind, and your face is like this, and I'm like, oh, Christ. Well, this is going to be really awkward. I mean, she's 24. My wife's at every show. Okay, I'll do it for the sake of the show. Well, I'm a team player. So we start doing this dance. Well, Emma was always about this big trick. She wanted to do some big trick to impress the judges. So she goes, all right, Bill, here's what I want you to do. I want you to lay me down, pick me up, spin me out. I'll spin back in. You lift me up, push me out. I'll whip around your waist, and you catch my legs. And I went, okay. Yeah, you're going to die. Because I don't know if you noticed or not, but I'm not really good at this. She goes, don't worry, I'll be there. I'm like, okay, it's your life. So we get to that part, and I lay her down, pick her up. I spun her out. She spun back in. I lifted her up. I pushed her out. She whipped around my waist, and I caught her legs, and I went, oh, my God. I'm getting this. Oh, yeah, there's going to be Bill Engvall dance studios across the country. So we keep rehearsing this dance. Well, she goes, all right, let's do it one more time, and we'll go home for the day, because we've already been there like 6 hours. So we got to that point. I laid her down. I picked her up. I spun her out. She spun back in. I lifted her up, and I got her to right here, and her legs were pointed straight up. And I'm starting to get tired. And I let her slip that much. And then I took my step that I had to do, and she shifted her weight to whip around me. And when she did, I heard a noise come from my crotch. That was somewhere between a scream and a tear. I had torn my groin. Oh, I hit, and they're filming everything. I'm on the ground grabbing my crotch, rolling around, screaming. Emma learned a whole bunch of new American cuss words. And I've felt pain like this in my life. In fact, fellas, if you've never torn your groin, allow me. Go home tonight, take out your hunting knife, and put it in the flame, and let it get glowing red hot, and then just jab it right in your crotch. That's kind of what it feels like. But you know what? If you've had a knee replacement, you know what I'm talking about. And I got to be honest with you, I was really proud of myself, because it was very painful. It was one of the most painful things I've been through in my life, and I got through it, and I was really proud of myself. And I said, you just got through something that's probably the worst pain of your life. 2 days later, I got a kidney stone. Turns out I was wrong. Oh, man, I would not wish this pain on the devil himself. 2:30 in the morning, I'm in an emergency room crying like a little girl, ripping holes in the sheets of the bed. Because if you've had one, you know what I'm talking. It's like the most debilitating thing that you can go through. And I'm just like going, ah, ah. And this nurse goes, well, now you know what it's like to go through childbirth. And I said through my tears, well then, ma'am, y'all are stupid. If this is what childbirth's like, there'd be no kids. And then they gave me a little shot of something called Dilaudid. Why is this not in every candy section of every grocery store? My brother-in-law said, you went from crying like a little girl to all of a sudden going, so, what's your name? So I go to see my urologist, and he goes, yeah, you got a kidney stone. I said, so what happens? I just pass it? And he goes, well, normally that's what would happen. He said, but Bill, you have a very small urethra. How do you even respond to that? I said, well, you know what, Doc? It's kind of cold in here. He's like, sir, that has nothing at all to do. There's 3 things in life a man never wants to hear. You kiss like a dog, you throw like a girl, and you have a very small urethra. So I said, so what's going to happen? He goes, well, we're going to do this little procedure where we're going to insert a tube up through your wiener. There's 4 things in life a man never wants to hear. And inserting a tube in your wiener is numero uno. He said, what we'll do is we'll put that tube up there, then we'll take the laser and we'll stick it up there and we'll blast the stone. He said, you'll be sedated. And I said, yes, I will. As a matter of fact, I want to be so sedated that I see that light and I want to walk into it, all right? So they do the procedure. They bring me out of anesthesia, and I said, did you get the stone? And he goes, Bill, I have never had this happen in my medical career. And I'm like, oh, please don't tell me you lost your wedding ring up there. He said, no. He said, your urethra is so small, we couldn't even get the laser up there to blast the stone. He said, is this hereditary? I don't know. Me and Pops never had that chat. Well, son, you're 21. It's time you learn about the Engvall family curse. Oh, we've all had small urethras. In fact, your great-granddaddy Max Engvall, he toured with Ripley's Believe It or Not. His was so small. So I said, so what happens now? And he goes, well, we put a stent in there to spread your urethra. Leave it in there for 2 weeks. We'll go back in and get the stone. So for 2 weeks, I have this stent. I go back in. They put me under. I come out, and they go, we got the stone. I said, thank God. And he said, you can pull the stent out in a couple days. I'm sorry, what? He said, yeah, you can just pull the stent out. And I go, what am I paying you to do? It's like going to a restaurant and going, yeah, I'll have the steak and lobster. And they go, well, there's the kitchen, go cook it. I said, dude, I'm a comedian. I don't know how to pull a stent out. He goes, you will. And he leaves the room. And I look under the sheet, and without being too graphic, I have a thread hanging out of my wiener. I don't even sew.